Look, I need you to close the door for a second. What I am about to tell you is not the kind of thing I can say loudly in a waiting room full of people, because it contradicts what a lot of well-meaning health professionals have been telling you for years, and frankly, it contradicts what you have probably been telling yourself. I have been practicing orthopedic medicine for over 2 decades. I have seen more broken hips, more shattered femurs, more women and men lying on emergency room tables wondering how their body failed them than I care to count. And in almost every single one of those cases, there was a common thread. That person believed they were doing enough. They believed they were taking care of their legs. They were walking. I am going to say something that might sound almost offensive at first, but stay with me because I am saying it out of genuine concern. Walking is not saving your legs after 60. It is not. And if you have weak stabilizing muscles and you are out there logging miles on pavement every single morning, you are not building strength. You are grinding away at cartilage that has already spent decades under pressure. You are performing endurance work on a structural system that desperately needs something completely different. You are loyal to the wrong solution, and that loyalty is costing you. Here is what nobody explains properly. There are three distinct categories of physical exercise that the human body requires as it ages, and they are not interchangeable. The first is aerobic exercise. This is your walking, your swimming, your light cycling. It strengthens your heart muscle, improves your lung capacity, and builds cardiovascular endurance. The National Institutes of Health is very clear on this. Aerobic activity addresses one system. The second category is muscle strengthening exercise. This is resistance work, loading muscle tissue against force so that your brain keeps those fibers employed and functional. The third category is balance training, which is the deliberate neuromuscular practice of keeping your body stable in space. Now, here is the critical piece that I watch people get wrong every single week in this clinic. Those three categories address three completely separate biological systems. Doing one does not give you the benefits of the others. Walking every day makes your heart more efficient. It does nothing, and I mean nothing, of meaningful significance for your fast twitch muscle fibers or your proprioceptive balance system. Zero. And after 60, those are the two systems that determine whether you are independent or not. Let me explain what fast twitch muscle fibers actually are, because the word gets thrown around and people nod like they understand it, but they usually do not. Your muscles contain two broad categories of fibers. Slow twitch fibers are your endurance workers. They are built for sustained, low-intensity activity. Walking activates them happily all day long, but fast twitch fibers are your emergency responders. These are the fibers that fire in a fraction of a second when your foot catches a crack in the sidewalk, when you step off a curb slightly wrong, when you reach for something and your body suddenly shifts its center of gravity. These fibers are responsible for something called eccentric control, which is the ability of your muscles to engage and decelerate your body weight against gravity in a controlled, deliberate way. They are the reason you lower yourself into a chair with dignity instead of dropping into it like a sack of flour. Walking is a slow twitch dominant activity. It does not produce the speed, the load, or the neurological demand required to recruit fast twitch fibers in any meaningful way. And here is the devastating part about aging and muscle biology. Fast twitch fibers are the first to go when you stop challenging them. Your brain is extraordinarily efficient. It constantly performs a metabolic audit on your body. If a muscle group is not being recruited in ways that require high force, high speed activation, your brain makes a decision. It begins dismantling those fibers at a cellular level because maintaining them is metabolically expensive. This process begins gradually in your 40s and accelerates significantly after 60. The medical term is sarcopenia, but I want you to think of it as muscle unemployment. Your brain has laid off your most important workers, and those workers are the ones standing between you and a fall that changes your life permanently. And I have not even gotten to the knee problem yet. When you walk with insufficient muscular support around the joint, specifically when the quadriceps and the gluteus medius are too weak to properly control alignment and load distribution, The forces of every single step compress directly onto your knee cartilage. Cartilage has no blood supply. It does not regenerate the way other tissues do. Every mile you walk on legs that lack adequate muscular stability is a mile of unnecessary mechanical wear on joint surfaces that cannot repair themselves. I am not telling you to stop walking. I am telling you to stop thinking that walking alone is protecting you, because the evidence says otherwise. And I see the consequences of that misunderstanding on my operating table. Now, I want to do something with you right now in this moment, and I need you to take this seriously. I am going to give you the same assessment I use in this clinic to determine whether a patient is at genuine, clinically significant risk of a life-altering fall. It is called the 30-second chair stand test, and it is one of the primary assessment tools used by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in their STEADY program, which stands for Stopping Elderly Accidents, Deaths, and Injuries. This is not a fitness challenge. This is a clinical predictor with real data behind it. Here is exactly what I need you to do. Find a firm chair, not a soft sofa, not a cushioned recliner, a firm, standard height chair. Sit all the way back in the seat. Now cross your arms over your chest, hands resting on your shoulders. This is not optional. The crossed arms remove your ability to push off your thighs or grab the armrests, which is how people cheat this test without realizing they are cheating it. From that position, I want you to stand up completely, come to a full upright position, and then sit back down with control. Not a drop, not a collapse, a controlled descent back to the seat. Do that as many times as you can in exactly 30 seconds. Count your repetitions out loud if you need to. Go ahead and pause this if you need to get to a chair. I will be right here. Now, let me tell you what your score means. If you are a woman between 60 and 64 years of age and you completed fewer than 12 repetitions, that is a clinical indicator of elevated fall risk. If you are a man in that same age range and you completed fewer than 14, same concern. As the decades advance, those thresholds adjust slightly, but the fundamental signal is consistent. Struggling to complete 10 or 11 full repetitions in 30 seconds, feeling your legs shake, feeling your body drop heavily onto the seat rather than being lowered with control, or needing to use your hands at any point, these are not signs of a bad day. They are signs that your fast twitch fiber recruitment and your eccentric control have declined to a level that places you in genuine danger. The CDC data associated with this test shows a clear correlation between poor performance and elevated fall risk in the following 24 months. Falls are not random accidents. They are predicted events, and this test predicts them. I want you to go to the comments right now and tell me what happened. If you completed that test and it felt strong and controlled, type the word solid. I want to know you are there, and I want you to know you have a foundation to build from. If your legs felt heavy, if you dropped onto the chair instead of lowering yourself, if you had to use your hands, or if you simply could not get through it the way you expected, type the word working. There is genuine honor in that word. It means you are listening to the signals your body has been trying to send you, possibly for years. Solid or working. Leave it in the comments now. Before we get into the exact movements to fix this, I need to talk about something that happens when your legs start to weaken, something that most patients are too proud to admit to me in the clinic. It is the fear of falling, and it changes the way you move long before an actual fall happens. When your fast twitch fibers degrade and your eccentric control starts to fail, your brain senses that instability, even if you are not consciously thinking about it. Your brain realizes that your emergency brakes are worn out. So, what does it do? It changes your gait. It alters the way you walk. You stop picking your feet up as high, your stride becomes shorter, you stop rolling through your foot from heel to toe, and instead, you start doing what I call the senior shuffle. You keep your feet closer to the ground because your brain believes that staying closer to the floor is safer. You start looking down at your feet instead of looking straight ahead. You hesitate at curbs. You instinctively reach for walls or furniture when you walk down a hallway. Here is the tragic clinical irony of the senior shuffle. By keeping your feet closer to the ground and shortening your stride to feel safer, you actually dramatically increase your risk of tripping over the smallest obstacle. A raised edge of a living room carpet, a slight unevenness in the sidewalk, a power cord on the floor. Because you are shuffling, your toe catches, and because your fast twitch fibers are dormant, you cannot step out and recover your balance in time. We have to break this cycle. You do not fix a shuffle by simply telling yourself to walk better. You fix it by restoring the eccentric strength that gives your nervous system the confidence to pick your feet up again. And we are going to fix this right now in whatever room you are sitting in, with no equipment, no gym membership, and no physical demands beyond what I am about to describe. We are going to work through 5 specific movements designed to rebuild eccentric control, reactivate your gluteus medius, and begin re-recruiting those fast twitch fibers that your brain has been quietly letting go. Do these movements slowly. Slow is the entire point. Speed comes later. Right now, we are rebuilding the neural connection. The first movement is the controlled chair descent. Stand in front of your chair with your feet hip-width apart. Cross your arms over your chest, just like you did for the test. Now, begin to lower yourself toward the seat, but do not sit down. I want you to take a full 5 seconds to descend. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The moment you feel the seat graze the back of your thighs, pause for 1 second in that hovering position, then drive back up through your heels. That slow descent is pure eccentric loading of your quadriceps. It is the exact stimulus your fast twitch fibers need to recognize that they are still required. Do this 10 times. Rest for 30 seconds. The burn you feel is not damage, it is recruitment. It is your brain reconnecting with muscle tissue it had begun to abandon. The second movement is the standing wall press. Stand with your back flat against a wall, your feet about 12 inches away from the baseboard. Slowly slide your back down the wall until your thighs are roughly parallel to the floor, or as far as is comfortable without pain. Hold that position for 10 seconds. Then slowly, with 5 seconds of deliberate control, slide back up. This movement activates the quadriceps under sustained isometric load, which is a different stimulus than the eccentric work we just did, and your neuromuscular system needs both signals. Repeat this 5 times. If 10 seconds is too easy, hold for 20. If the full parallel position is not available to you yet, a shallower angle is completely acceptable. Begin where you are, not where you wish you were. The third movement is the standing hip abduction with chair support. Place your hand lightly on the back of your firm chair for balance, just your fingertips, not a grip. Stand on your right leg. Now, slowly lift your left leg out to the side, no more than 12 to 15 inches. Pause for 2 seconds at the top, then slowly lower it back over 3 seconds. This movement directly targets the gluteus medius, the muscle on the outer hip that is almost universally weak in patients who struggle with the chair stand test. When this muscle fails, your pelvis drops to one side with every step, creating a cascade of instability that eventually expresses itself as a fall. 10 repetitions on each side. Switch your support hand and repeat on the other leg. Go slow. Feel the outer hip working. That is exactly the conversation your brain and your muscles need to be having. The fourth movement is the seated heel raise sequence. Sit upright in your chair with your feet flat on the floor, spine tall. Lift both heels off the ground, rising onto your toes. Hold for 2 seconds, then lower with complete control over 3 seconds. This strengthens the calf complex and, more importantly, it trains the ankle stabilizers that are your first line of defense when your foot contacts uneven ground. Weak ankles mean slow proprioceptive response. Slow proprioceptive response means the signal that tells your brain your foot has landed wrong arrives too late for your fast twitch fibers to respond. 15 repetitions, then pause, then 15 more. The fifth movement is the single leg standing clock. Stand behind your chair with both hands on the back for initial support. Lift your right foot slightly off the ground so you are balancing on your left leg. Now, with your right foot suspended, imagine a clock face on the floor in front of you. Reach your right foot forward to the 12 position. Bring it back to center. Reach to the 3 position on your right side. Back to center. Reach back slightly toward the 5 position. Back to center. Switch legs and repeat. This movement forces your standing leg to recruit every stabilizing fiber it has in real time, under dynamic conditions, which is precisely what your nervous system needs to rehearse. Balance is not a passive condition. It is an active, continuous negotiation between your muscles and your brain, and you have to practice that negotiation deliberately. Now I need to talk to you about what is happening at a cellular level when you do these movements, because the exercise is only half the equation. Rebuilding fast-twitch muscle fiber is a biological process that requires specific raw materials, and if you are not providing those materials, you are asking your body to build a house without giving it any lumber. The first critical nutrient I want you to understand is something your family doctor has probably never mentioned, because the medical community is still catching up to the research. It is creatine monohydrate. I know exactly what you are thinking. You think creatine is just a powder for 20-year-old bodybuilders at the gym? It is not. Creatine is the primary energy source for your fast-twitch muscle fibers. When you do that chair stand test, your muscles demand instant explosive energy to get you out of that seat, and they get that energy directly from your phosphocreatine system. As you age, your natural creatine stores plummet, which is one major reason your fast-twitch fibers struggle to fire when you need them. Clinical studies in geriatric populations are now showing that adding just 3 to 5 grams of creatine monohydrate daily, combined with the specific movements you just learned, dramatically accelerates the rebuilding of functional leg strength. It is safe, it is inexpensive, and it is the exact missing fuel for the emergency responder muscles we are trying to save. The second nutritional piece concerns the actual structural repair of your muscle tissue and the inflammation that is preventing it from happening efficiently. Chronic low-grade joint inflammation, the kind that makes your knees ache after activity, is not just a discomfort issue. Inflammation in the joint environment actively impairs the signaling pathways that govern muscle fiber repair. Your body cannot rebuild tissue it cannot properly access. This is where shelled hemp seeds become clinically relevant, and I want to be precise about why. Hemp hearts are a complete plant protein, meaning they contain all 9 essential amino acids in a single food source. For muscle protein synthesis, specifically the repair and growth of fast-twitch fibers after resistance exercise, you need adequate leucine, isoleucine, and valine alongside the full amino acid profile. Hemp hearts provide this. 3 tablespoons contain approximately 10 grams of complete protein in a form that is highly bioavailable. But beyond the protein, the specific ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acids in hemp seeds is what makes them particularly valuable for someone over 60 dealing with chronic joint inflammation. Most Western diets are skewed toward excessive omega-6 intake from processed oils, which drives inflammatory pathways. Hemp seeds provide a ratio that helps counteract this imbalance, supporting the resolution of inflammation in the joint capsule and surrounding connective tissue. When inflammation decreases, mechanoreceptors in the joint send cleaner proprioceptive signals. Cleaner signals mean faster, more accurate neuromuscular responses. Add 3 tablespoons to your morning yogurt, a smoothie, or simply eat them plain. They require no cooking, no preparation, and no prescription. Here is where I want to leave you today, and I want you to hear this clearly. You did not end up struggling with that chair stand test because you were lazy or careless. You ended up here because you were given incomplete information. You were told to walk, and you walked faithfully. And walking is genuinely good for your cardiovascular system. But nobody sat you down and explained that after 60, your fast-twitch fibers are quietly disappearing without a specific stimulus to keep them, that your myelin needs nutritional support to keep your nerve signals sharp, and that eccentric strength is the biological mechanism standing between you and the fall that could change everything. Now you know. Now you have the test, and you have the 5 movements, and you have the 2 nutritional targets that make the work stick. If you want to keep protecting your independence with real, clinical truth, subscribe to Liberty Aging right now. Come back tomorrow, do those 5 movements again, check your comments. I want to see how many of you typed solid and how many typed working, because both of those words represent someone who decided to stop accepting decline as inevitable. That is the most important decision you can make today. Thank you for staying with me through this entire video. I will see you in the next one.